I like the Fisher King. How about you?
I guess like my main issue is kind of like with just the film's a little bit meh.
Oh my god, don't like dive into it with a meh. Like build up to a meh. Well, hello there. Welcome to On the Beat, the podcast that uncovers full frontal male nudity in cinema. My name is Laura, and I am joined by my co-host, Ryan.
Hi.
Hey, Ryan.
Hi there. This is a very energetic opening.
I'm pretty excited.
Oh, okay.
I'm excited to talk about the 1991 Terry Gilliam film, The Fisher King. Starring Robin Williams as Perry and Jeff Bridges as Jack Lucas. But before I get into those guys, tell me about Gilliam.
Gilliam. So, Terry Gilliam, the director.
Indeed.
So, I think a lot of people know of him. I think a lot of people know of his work. They have definitely seen a bunch of his stuff, like, over this time.
I hope so.
He is not obscure, and certainly if you're from the UK, you're probably going to know more about Terry Gilliam than most Americans would be.
Okay.
Certainly because he is and still is, let's say that. They're still doing stage work and stuff like that, but he was part of the Monty Python comedy troupe. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that comes with, you don't really need much explanation for Monty Python. Everyone across the globe will know who Monty Python are, hailing from like the 1960s and into the 1970s and ending in the early 1980s.
Yeah.
But his contributions, other than say the small bit parts that he played in sketches and things, was he primarily did the cutout animations that bridged the sketches together from episode to episode.
Okay, so like the intro with like the feet and the flowers and...
Pretty much, yeah. So like that gave the show its own very distinctive look, very distinctive style.
Oh, for sure.
Not to say that the comedy wasn't already quite stylistic in itself, because you never really had seen anything like that before. Very surrealist and stuff, but...
Yeah, I like that a lot. I like that just because, you had a lovely kind of through line through each episode.
Yeah.
Connecting those.
Yeah.
I think the only other sketch show that I knew of that did that, which was obviously much later, was Mr. Show.
Yeah.
Like the David Cross, Bob Odenkirk.
So very influential. Very influential.
Definitely.
So in terms of like Gilliam's history, he's American born, and he studied political science. So very much his views, certainly when he was studying in the 1960s, his political views were very much influenced by the civil rights movement that would have been happening in the US at that time.
Okay.
You know, he's left-leaning, so his whole feeling around about that time was that by 1968, he leaves the United States to go set up shop in Britain. Because of his view of the US, he doesn't like the US particularly much. He renounced his citizenship in 2006. But here's the thing, he still resides in London. He's now an 80-year-old. He has been married since 1973.
What a darling.
Which is it's lovely to know. And obviously, by this time, he's in the UK. He's an animator, and he's doing Monty Python, right? So he's part of that comedy troupe. So in terms of his filmmaking career, and I guess like this is obviously more important, pertains to what we're talking about today. Up until this time, he's made 13 feature films.
Like through his career.
Right, completely, yeah. So from his first feature, which I'm going to say is his co-directorship credit on Monty Python and the Holy Grail, which was obviously with Terry Jones. And that's back in 1975. So that's where basically he kind of cuts his treads, so to speak. And obviously, if you watch Holy Grail, you see a lot of key and very distinctive Gilliam-esque things.
Right.
That we then later, as we follow his work, start to like recognize and see in his more fully fledged directing work.
Well, his quirks and stuff kind of penetrated through Flying Circus as it was.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's cool. Okay.
And I guess like what I'm talking about is like it's the angles. It's the
Okay.
It's like the use of like wide angle lenses and like if you use them in a close up situation, it distorts like faces and things.
Oh yeah, you see that a lot in this film too.
Yeah. So yeah, like he's got a very distinctive visual look and just the way that sets are decorated and stuff. So basically the way that Holy Grail was constructed was that Terry Jones would deal with the performances and just make sure everyone was doing what they were doing.
Okay.
And then Terry Gilliam would be more on the visual side of things.
Oh.
Yeah, so
Okay.
that's kind of how that partnership worked. But I mean, let's be fair. I mean, obviously, Monty Python just as a troupe in terms of everything else, like that was just their thing. That was just the way it was.
What, perfection?
His first director, let's say fully fledged director credit, is Jabberwocky in '77.
Ah, right.
Right. That has Michael Palin in it. Mm-hmm. I remember seeing it like a while ago.
Yeah, same.
And yeah, you know,
It's fine.
it's fine. It's
It's fine.
You know, but again, like it's paving the way for like what he's gonna be coming in to do as well.
Gotta start somewhere.
Yeah. So 77, Jabberwocky. 79 is Life of Brian.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Arguably,
yes.
arguably their best film, and that is a film that we're going to explore.
That's on the docket.
That is on the docket. That is coming.
On the program.
But when you don't know.
Yeah, you're never gonna know. Well,
No. Well, you will know.
You will.
No, don't say that.
I'm not telling you now.
Yeah, don't patronize our audience.
Like, be patient.
Yeah.
Guys.
I know. We need every single one of you. And moving on. So Life of Brian 79, and by the time they're making Meaning of Life, which is near 1983 at this point, Monty Python is no more. Effectively, they all broke up. They all started going off into their own directions.
I don't want to say they
like
broke up. They're still best friends.
Yes, but
The ones we have.
There's no show. Let's say there's no TV show.
Can't do it forever.
The last movie is obviously The Meaning of Life, which is fine.
I really like The Meaning of Life.
Okay. Wafer Thin Mint.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, but certainly like they all go off in their separate directions, and obviously John Cleese is an actor. Eric Idle started doing more things in like music, and he was also acting.
Spamalot.
Spamalot, and obviously Gilliam pens himself now as a writer-director.
Yeah.
And Michael Palin goes off to do like travel shows and stuff like that, and he's a beautiful man.
He is.
Like, and all of his travel shows are like easily some of the easiest watching you can ever have in your life.
Yeah.
And Terry Jones is still directing all this. Yeah, all very nice, all very amicable. What we get from Gilliam is, and this is from his own words, is that he likes to look at his films as trilogies. Okay.
Interesting.
Now, they're related in some way, shape, or form to each other because they explore very similar ideas, but from slightly different perspectives. Now, we also have to take into account that his background is effectively in an analysis of politics and of society, and how society itself kind of works and things. So he's very much his focus, and you can tell that from like his work and even the stuff that he doesn't write, because there are films, and certainly Fisher King is one of those that he hasn't written. But obviously, there is a definite focus on society and how it changes people and just the rigors of that of society just in general.
Okay.
So let's look at this first trilogy. So this is called the Trilogy of Imagination. All right, and this is very much about the ages of man.
Okay.
Okay. Now, all three of these films, two of these films are excellent. Okay. Now, firstly, one of the films in this trilogy, the first one, is Time Bandits in 1981.
It's fine.
Perfect.
Okay.
5-star movie. Yeah. Let's put it this way. I think Time Bandits is a 5-star movie, and we'll get to how I feel about The Fisher King. So, Time Bandits, now, Brazil is the next film that comes out after that.
Heck yeah.
In 1985, the Jonathan Pryce, Robert De Niro sci-fi movie.
Oh, I love that movie.
So good. Really, really good. And that's similarly on the theme, but it's seen from the perspective of a 30-odd-year-old man. Then we get The Adventures of Baron Munchausen, which is in 1988, and that is seen from the perspective of an elderly man.
Right. Okay. Yeah. That movie's fine.
Yeah.
And that one just precedes Fisher
Yes.
King, right? Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah. Well, Munchausen has its own interesting story that kind of leads into the evolution of what becomes the Fisher King, obviously, for Gilliam. So, Fisher King itself becomes part of this next trilogy, which is the trilogy of Americana, and that's basically just like it's set in North American soil, and that they're effectively less fantastical. Let's put it this way: Fisher King comes out in 91, and part of this trilogy is then followed by 12 Monkeys in 95, which is fantastic, and then Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas in 98. But we're focusing on Fisher King, obviously.
Because of Baron Munchausen, Terry Gilliam didn't think he was going to work again. Because
No.
it went so over budget, so over time, right?
Yeah.
So he was like, "Oh, I'm out. I'm out of Hollywood." And
Yeah.
he never thought he would make an actual like film in the United States.
No.
He never thought he would make a film written by somebody else.
Yeah.
And he didn't think he would make like a Hollywood film
No. It just, the whole thing ballooned and just got out of control. So,
with Munchausen.
with Munchausen, yeah.
Yeah. And here we are. We get the Fisher King.
Yeah.
So since Munchausen.
Well,
You took German.
yeah, no, but I say
Say it in German.
Munchausen.
Munchausen.
Yeah, you're putting on like like a fucking Elsa the
Munchausen.
she-wolf like sort of accent.
Since Munchausen
Yeah.
was such a disaster, Ryan.
Munchausen.
Oh my god.
Right, okay, well look, it's not difficult. Like you can read it on the page.
Munchausen.
Alright, okay, Munchausen.
Munchausen.
God, like an American.
Munchausen.
Munchausen.
So when Munchausen was such a disaster,
Munchausen.
he ends up getting this script. And it was a script that he read and he loved. And he was like never going to write or direct someone else's script. And it came from this guy, Richard LaGravenese. It was his very first spec script.
Yeah.
He'd been writing in Hollywood, and I guess his wife or his girlfriend was like, write a script, write one of your own. And it got sent out and obviously had gone through a couple different directors in different
Yeah.
studios before it got to Gilliam.
Well, I guess LaGravenese was working as like a factory writer, just like churning out stuff. Pretty
Okie dokie.
much.
Yeah. And when Gilliam got it, he goes, you know what? I bet this has a better, like, it wasn't just like this straight off the bat.
No.
Because it looked like it had a lot of changes and stuff. And so I think he wrote LaGravenese. It was like, I love this. Show me your first draft. LaGravenese sends him his first draft, right? And he's like, this is freaking awesome.
Yeah, he originally got the fourth draft.
Okay, yeah.
This is also a script that's gone through the Disney wheelhouse as well, because that was the property in which they bought, and I think they were trying to turn it into something more of a caper.
Yeah, it had a bunch of studio notes in it.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was definitely
yeah.
a caper instead.
Some of
And he
those
was like,
some
no.
of those things survive in the final film, but they're less pronounced to the kind of I don't know, Pink Panther levels of stupidity.
Yeah.
I think the one thing that they mention in the commentary, and it was in the documentaries as well, is the film Rafifi, which is a phenomenal heist movie. Fuck your Ocean's 11s. It's Rafifi we're talking about here.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think like what they were trying to do is they were trying to mainstream it, because certainly at the heart of this story is the relationship between two quite disheveled men.
Yeah.
Is what we have.
Yeah,
like
definitely.
people, like two men at the lowest of the low, who one is responsible for the other's downfall, effectively.
Do you want me to read to you the letterboxed synopsis?
Yes, instead of me worming around trying to figure out in my head. Yeah.
Two troubled men face their terrible destinies and events of their past as they join together on a mission to find the Holy Grail and thus to save themselves.
Yeah. The Fisher King just as a story, like the film itself, not the Fisher King story, because it's obviously a story.
Yeah, definitely. Different.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say that's pretty much on point. you know?
Yeah, it's a very blanket kind of statement, synopsis about the movie. I mean,
Yeah.
I would kind of look at it as, if you're going to go slightly more in depth, but not ruin it, you know, you have a radio DJ, very popular one, who inadvertently kind of drives a listener to shoot up a bar.
Pretty much they have a recurring caller who's a loner, and Jack Lucas, who's played obviously by Jeff Bridges, makes an off-the-cuff comment about basically hating yuppies.
Yeah.
It's at that time, like coming out of the late 80s and obviously into early 90s, where there's a very distinctive...
Like the upper crust of New York.
Yeah, there's a really kind of very distinctive difference between the people who live on top and the people who are living down below.
Yes. And I think he has a crush on somebody who is of the upper crust, and and Jack Lucas is like, you're never gonna get her. You're never gonna get her. We need to take them down. We need to take them down.
It's a waste of your time. Yeah.
So the guy, the caller, takes it literally and shoots up this Manhattan bar.
Yep.
And what happens in the process is he shoots someone who he ends up meeting the widow.
Yeah.
Of widower?
The widower.
Yeah. Of someone that was shot in that bar, who is Perry, who's played by Robin Williams, and who is like directly affected inadvertently by something that Jack Lucas has done. And I think it ends up being Jack Lucas's quest to help Perry find his holy grail, whether that's literal or figuratively, you know, kind of help him get back on his feet, and in turn get Jack back on his feet and kind of find themselves again. Yes.
So both of these characters are searching for metaphorical and literal grails.
Yeah.
Effectively, yeah. So Jack Lucas is, I guess, like in his way for seeking redemption, sees Perry as the linchpin, that emotional linchpin that will get him back to effectively like a normality. But I mean, to like characterize Jack Lucas a little bit more, I mean, he's one of those like bombastic asshole DJs that we were, you know, like he's a Howard Stern type.
But he's on AM radio, which I thought was strange.
Yeah.
Who listens to that?
I have no idea. No idea.
I mean, he's popular enough. He was about to get a TV show.
He was about to get a TV show.
Remember what that TV show was called? It was called like, I'm on the radio. I think that's what it was called.
Yeah, I think it's something silly
I'm
like
on the
that.
radio.
Yeah, it's dumb. It's dumb as hell. But like the whole opening of the film is we see Jack Lucas in, you know, like his high life, basically.
Yeah, in his studio recording his show. We see him in his like crazy apartment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I say this now?
What's that?
About that ornament that you see?
God, yeah.
Okay. So I hope you guys have listened to The Color of Night, our very first episode, where you have that ornament that has those little glass squares that kind of, you know, multiply what's on the other side.
Yeah, it looks like a flat version of what a fly would see.
Yeah, there's the same exact spinning ornament in this movie. So we have, which predates Color of Night.
Yeah, by 2 years.
By 2 years. So you have the Fisher King, Color of Night, and then when did Bound come out?
95,
There you
think.
go. So, again, guys, where did this come from? Find me this desk ornament. I'll put a picture up on Instagram so everyone can see it, or on Twitter.
This
whatever.
Rotary glass or hard plastic ornament that...
I am on the hunt. That ornament is my grail.
Yes.
I digress.
Obviously. We're haunted
I'm
by
obsessed.
we're obsessed and haunted by this tabletop ornament.
Like, how does it keep coming up? How is that in this movie too?
Yeah.
Out of the movies that we're doing, does that ornament follow dicks around? Like, how is this possible?
It's how you see the dicks. That's how it is. That's what it is. It's like
but that hasn't happened yet.
It's like a dick kaleidoscope.
But if that, oh my god.
Yeah.
If it actually had a dick behind it, I would just pass out.
12 dicks.
Can I talk about Mercedes' rule?
Oh, she's phenomenal in this movie.
Phenomenal. With a
Yeah.
capital F. Am I right?
Yeah, well done. That's an in-joke that no one else is going to get.
She plays Anne. She plays Jack Lucas's girlfriend,
Yes.
who owns a video store called Video Spot.
Video
She
spot.
is an entrepreneur. She's a business owner. She is a modern, independent woman.
Yes.
And I love her. She's fantastic.
Yeah. It had been a while since I'd seen The Fisher King properly, and obviously we've rewatched it for, I've rewatched it for this
I've seen it.
podcast. Yeah, I know.
Jeez.
I'm explaining what I do.
My apologies.
Just because we're married does not mean that we are chained together. It's not like Stuck on Me, you know? I'm not the Matt Damon in this situation.
Oh my God.
Yeah, exactly. See? No one ever thought I was going to bring
mean,
up a Farrelly Brothers movie, but anyway.
I'd rather be Greg Kinnear.
Yeah, good. That's fine. I don't have a problem with Matt Damon. Anyway, so I remember seeing this film like at least 20 years ago at this point. Didn't she win the Oscar for this movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she won Best Supporting Actress for this film, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
She did really well. Yeah, she's damn good.
She blows it away.
Yeah. I mean, everyone's really good in this film.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Everyone kind of complements each other. So it's not so much as like she's too good. But she's also acting against like Jeff Bridges, who I think does a really good job in this movie.
Yeah, he's an absolute treasure.
Yeah.
Amanda Plummer plays Lydia, who plays the apple of Perry's eye.
Yes.
And what's funny is that Terry Gilliam didn't want her at all. Like, it wasn't her specifically, but he had a British actress, an English actress in mind.
What was her name?
And he never said.
Oh, okay.
He never said who it was, but he was like absolutely adamant that he was going to have this woman. He's like, I don't want to see tapes. I don't want to see anything. The studio ended up sending him a video of Amanda Plummer, and he goes, oh, shit.
Yeah.
She's real good.
It's hard to see somebody else doing that, though.
She's so, like, tough, but delicate.
It's hard
and
to
goofy.
see. It's hard to see anybody else in the roles that they've all been put in.
Yes.
That's the thing. They all do a really good job.
I think it's a really
Certainly
good
you
example of just like perfect casting.
How everyone just has a really distinctive look. We looked at the special features, obviously, in the Blu-ray when we were doing it. We did like all the camera tests and all the costume tests and stuff like that, and just how it all kind of just works.
Yeah,
you know?
It gelled really well.
Yeah, and it's like they all look good together. They all look good in like a lineup and stuff. And it's like, yeah, you know what? I think that's a really good piece of casting. I think the blending of the legend through the course of the script, I think, is quite clever. Like they take the story, they subvert it, and it's directly referenced in the film. But I quite like how it helps to change and subvert like character expectations and just kind of where the story goes with it.
Yeah. But when he was trying to write his own spec script, he essentially wrote something that was more like Rain Man. He was just like, I want this guy and like this other guy.
Well, the thing is though, and Rain Man didn't exist by that point. He wrote it, then Rain Man came, because obviously he had him as had Perry as a savant, basically.
Like, oh yeah, idiot savant.
And obviously takes him to Las Vegas, and then we
It's
all
just
we
such
all
a
know
weird
the story of Rain
thing
Man.
how people were reading this script and going, oh, it's the most amazing script I ever read. And then it makes what it makes you think is that this just came from like the bowels of his soul. You know what I mean? Like, oh, the Fisher King is a story I really want to tell, but it's not really how it happened. You know, creaming their jeans over this script. I'm like, I don't know. Just having a backstory like that makes it a little bit weirder for me. I
would say that is the general makeup of any script that goes through the Hollywood gamut. Like, that's kind of how I've always seen it. So at least, like, with Le Gravenets, like, I kind of feel like it was always kind of grounded. And what it kind of needed was a Gilliam.
Yeah.
To inject a bit more life into it.
I've read a lot of Arthurian romances, and I did my minor in undergrad on medieval and Renaissance studies. And it's annoying because when we were doing this, I'm like, oh, I have a bunch of Chrétien de Troyes romances. And I'm like looking through the book and I'm like, this is the only one I haven't read.
Yeah.
So of course I spent my time reading it, and it is different from the legend that we end up getting, because Chrétien de Troyes, he probably died or something before this finished. He finished writing it. It literally ends.
Yeah.
The story of Percival ends like mid-sentence.
It is medieval times, so he probably died when he was about 18.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, so.
Oh, poor thing. But it went through like 4 different, or after that, like 3 different variations before they ended up like with the story of the Grail that they ended up getting. Mm-hmm. Because the initial story is where Percival meets the wounded king, who is the Fisher King. And he's just in a boat. He's fishing. Mm-hmm. And when he goes into his castle, he sees someone like with a tray walking around, and it's this beautiful Grail. Yeah. And he had learned from a mentor early on when he became a knight, where he goes, don't ask too many questions. Okay. You don't want to be too eager, so don't ask too many questions. So he didn't want to ask, like, what is that Grail? He also sees a spear that just bleeds from the tip. Okay. And he's like, maybe, or a lance. He's like, maybe don't ask about that either. And so when he leaves, he's told by like this crazy woman in the forest, like, you didn't ask him? You didn't ask him about the cup? You didn't ask him about the lance? And he's like, what are you talking about? He's like, what's the problem? And she goes, you have to ask. That's how you break the wounded king's curse. You were meant to ask, like, who does the Grail serve? That's what he was meant to ask. Okay. And it was like the biggest chance of a lifetime for Percival and for the king, because he's wounded. He was like hitting the dick or something by that lance. And so he couldn't have kids. He couldn't walk. So that's why he fished, because he couldn't ride a horse and stuff. Right. Anyway, so then that story kind of ends. You never find out, because Percival's looking for the Grail again and looking for the king, so he can be like, hey, what's up with the Grail? So we can break the curse. Yeah. You know? And so eventually, when other people took up the story to kind of finish it off, it ends up where Percival ends up meeting the king. Mm-hmm. And the king's like, oh, I'm thirsty. Percival doesn't know it's a king. He just sees this dude who looks like shit. Yeah, of course. And then there's a cup sitting on...
Well, he's dying, isn't he?
Yeah, he's messed up. Aye. The maimed king. Yes. And he grabs a cup from the side table. Yeah. Fills it with water, gives it to him. And the king's like, oh my God.
Well, he's healed.
This is the freaking Grail.
Yeah, he's healed.
He's healed. Everything's great. And he's holding the Holy Grail in his hands. Yeah. And he asks Percival, like, how did you find what, like, my best and brightest knights and wisest knights couldn't find? Mm-hmm. And he goes, well, I don't know. I just knew that you were thirsty. Mm-hmm. And that's the story that they tell in the movie.
Yeah, that's my favorite bit in the entire film. Yeah. Is when they're lying down.
Sorry if that's too long, but like I think it's very interesting. I love those Arthurian romances. They're so funny and they're so weird, and I think anyone should pick it up. It's fun. Some of the stories are really short anyway. Yeah. So this was Gilliam's very first film that he did without any of the pythons in it, but it's his second film that's a quest for the Grail. I mean, that's fairly obvious. It's just kind of a weird coincidence. Like, he's reading the script and he's like, oh, shit, it's another Grail movie. Yeah. You know, but he's like, well, I know the Grail well enough. And it's also his second film with Robin Williams, because Williams was in Munchausen.
Yes, he is in Munchausen.
And I think Gilliam believed that the studios really wanted Gilliam because he was kind of like the honeypot or the honey trap for Robin Williams, because they really wanted Robin Williams in this role as Perry. While they're trying to figure out what to do with the Fisher King, like just before, they were trying to get him to direct the Addams Family.
Oh, wow. That'd be weird, yeah.
It's so strange, and I think it came out the same year, but he never wanted to do it.
No, that's a Barry Sonnenfeld movie now, I think. I think that's what that was.
It is, yeah, it is. And it was Barry Sonnenfeld's first movie. Wow. And he was like, he was the DP on like Raising Arizona, Big, Miller's Crossing, stuff like that. So yeah, Addams Family was his first
that's wild.
Film. He ended up doing all like the Men in Black movies, right?
Yep.
I don't know what a Gilliam Addams Family would look like.
Well, I think because of how outlandish the Addams Family just is in general, I think they felt like because of his exoticism. Is that it?
Exoticism?
Exoticism, basically. Gilliam is exotic. So basically he would have brought his own his own brand of humor and style to that idea. I don't know. That doesn't faze me at all. That sounds actually super interesting.
Yeah.
But
yeah, and so when they ended up, they start filming the movie, I think people were worried about Robin Williams kind of going off the handles, and I know LaGravenese was a little bit worried about him, like, spinning too far off of the script and stuff. But what Gilliam would do is he would, like, let Robin Williams take one,
one for himself, one for what they needed.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
exactly.
if there was any sparks of brilliance, then he was given the opportunity to do it.
Yeah, and LaGravenese was always on set, just kind of like as Gilliam's anchor, because Gilliam also could fly off the rails and do a bunch of crazy Gilliam stuff. And so he didn't want to do that, because he's like, I'm filming someone else's script. I want to stay true to the script. And so that's why he had him on all the time.
Yeah. There's an admiration to that level of loyalty and stuff like that. But I guess, like, you always want to give yourself that level of being able to think a little bit outside the box and give it a bit more artistic expression.
Yeah, a little bit of freedom. A little bit of freedom. It was funny because we talked about that when we were doing Color of Night, and there was the writer on that film, and I was like, why wasn't he on set to try and figure out, like, what is happening with this movie? And you're like,
it doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen.
That doesn't happen.
Yeah, it's kind of a rare case.
No, because you don't want a conflict of interests either.
Yeah.
Because certainly if you have a writer who's very attached to the script that they've written, you don't want them on the set basically trying to direct it when you have a director there, and it just kind of causes conflicts of interest. So
I think LaGravenese was just like happy to have his script baby be born.
I guess, but I mean, Gilliam's invited him on set to kind of not oversee, but like be an advisor and just kind of just keep the whole thing on track. I guess this is also a major kind of safety tactic because of how far blown Munchausen got as well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. He's like, look, I can be tamed, I swear. Just like, let me do my thing.
Because, like, let's put it this way. The whole reason the film got made in the first place was because everyone was creaming themselves over the script.
Yes.
So the last thing he wants to be doing is like, well, let's see what I can do with this. And it's like, well, no, he wants to kind of keep it a little bit safe. And it's very much like The Fisher King feels incredibly safe.
Yeah, that's true. And I think that Gilliam had said that Jeff Bridges was like his one and only like casting idea. Like he's the only person he wanted to play Jack. And Bridges kept trying to talk him out of it. He's like, no one's going to believe it. This isn't me. Like I'm not this character. But Gilliam knew like
Hollywood's nice guy.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, well, he's the only one that looks like he could be redeemed. Like, he can be such human trash, but then the audience will still pull for him. Yeah. And there were times where Bridges was, like, on set, and Gilliam was watching him, and he said he looked like a golden god.
Oh, wow,
like,
okay.
He's just, like, so enamored by Jeff Bridges. Like, he was like Metatron. It was like so beautiful, like the voice of God.
Oh, bloody hell.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
He said, oh, there's times I wished I was gay. Just for Bridges.
Well, there you go.
He said that.
There you go.
And I'm on board.
Of course you are. Of course you are. Yeah.
And he was also the one that was on set that like didn't break character. He was not method necessarily, but he was the one grounding the production, because like Robin Williams, Gilliam,
live fire. Yeah,
live and
wires,
so
basically.
Bridges is always there just to be like, I don't know, the on-set daddy, making sure everyone was doing what they needed to be doing.
Professional stalwart. Yeah.
There was this scene where they're under a bridge and they were always working at night. Like so many of the scenes were at night, and they're tired. Bridges says to Robin Williams, they're like, let's just go have a wee sit. Like, let's just sit over here. And they go to sit like on some trash cans or something. Okay. And they go and they sit down, and then I guess they startled a bunch of pigeons that were sleeping like up on the bridge, and all the pigeons just took massive shits on them.
That's happened to me. Really? Yeah, it happened to me once.
Wait a minute. Not exactly that, but that happened like when we first started dating. Do you remember? Yeah. Is that what you were going to say?
No, this was another thing.
Oh.
Yeah, I was doing a film in 2016, and I'd set up like my camera and stuff on the street, and I was under some trees, and these trees were dead. There was no leaves, nothing on them. Next thing I know is I'm filming and stuff, and then I turn around and I look at myself. I'm literally peppered in bird shit, and there's like, it was like one bird. So one bird took like an angry disliking to me, covered my camera stuff in shit, covered me in shit. Because like back in the UK, I didn't really know what a burrito was or anything, but they used to do like a haggis burrito next to the sex health clinic. So there was like a food shack.
I know that place.
Yeah, I did a haggis burrito, and I
Hell
was
yeah.
like, it's like, if I buy a water, can you just give me as many napkins as you can? Because I'm totally covered in bird shit. I've got a different camera bag now, obviously, which is waterproof and shit-proof. But
nice.
At the time, the napkins were red. It totally stained, like, all of my stuff. Yeah.
Oh, man.
And my jacket and everything. It was fucked.
Hilarious.
Yeah, I was laughing at the time, not. They were like, "Oh, aren't you so lucky?" Isn't that the thing though? Like they come up to you, they go, "Oh, it's like good luck if you get hit by fucking bird shit." And I'm like, "No, you're fucking unlucky, aren't you? You were in the wrong place at the wrong time."
It's just something people say to make you feel better, but it's not
Bollocks.
true. If you get hit with bird shit, like that sucks.
Yeah,
Who cares?
I'm like, put it in your mouth.
You know, Perry was a professor of medieval history. Yeah.
Before the horrible tragedy. That's how he's able to recite all of these tales and stuff like that. 'Cause
yeah, so smart.
on the basis of this tragedy, the tragedy itself is that when this rogue caller goes in to massacre these people at this yuppie bar, basically his wife is shot in the face.
Yeah.
And her face explodes effectively into Robin Williams' Perry's mouth. And
Gruesome.
She falls down, yeah. And as a result of the trauma of this, Perry goes mad. And his name's originally not Perry, it's something else.
Yes, I don't remember what it is.
Yeah, I can't remember. There's a very brief shot of his like credentials that his like someone who takes pity on him allows him to live in this basement, basically.
Yeah.
And that's how obviously Jeff Bridges finds out who he is and why he's ended up this way.
Yes.
But obviously within his state of catatonia and the psychosis is that he's blended his past life into what becomes his modern life, where he is effectively living the Fisher King fantasy.
Yes, so he is
in a modern
knight
New York landscape.
on the search for the Holy Grail.
Yes.
And he thinks Jeff Bridges, Jack,
will be the one to help him.
Yeah, of course.
He is the Neo of this story. He's the one.
Matrix.
Yeah, obviously anyone who's ever seen a film ever has probably seen The Matrix, so yeah, they're not. Don't patronize our audience, Laura. Warned you about it already.
Oh, my apologies.
2 strikes.
Dear listeners. So I know you really like that scene when Jack first meets Perry.
Yeah, with the bum hunters.
Yeah, those ruffians.
Yeah, so like Jack's in a really horrible place because he is literally guilt-ridden.
Yes.
Like he is finding it rough. Like he's torturing himself watching the TV show that he didn't get in his past life.
Forgive me.
And he's reciting the lines in his bathtub and stuff like that. And obviously, you know, when the tragedy happens, everything goes to rock bottom.
Fallen King.
Fallen King. This is how it relates to the story, the Fisher King.
Boom.
So, but like, what you find is, I mean, he's living with Anne, right, who owns the video store.
Jack,
and,
yeah.
Yeah, he's just a tortured individual. So it kind of feels like, because this is 3 years after that moment, after the tragedy,
shooting, yeah.
Right? 3 years after it, just looks like it's complete and utter, like, torture.
For him, yeah.
For him and probably for her as well.
Like, he's lost his job. He lost his TV show job that he was going to get.
Voluntarily, I feel like. I feel like just in a mental state, he just couldn't obviously hack it anymore.
Yeah, he sunk into such a severe depression. And I think when the tragedy happens, they're like, oh, we've heard deep regrets from the radio station, but we haven't heard from Jack himself. So I don't think he ever really publicly apologized for what happened. And so he's just been living with that guilt.
Yeah, pretty much the entire time.
Just eating him up.
So by the time we meet let's say, I don't know, the bum hunters, right? Mm-hmm. And I call them that because they're kind of just the hooligans, the ruffians,
Yeah, they're like rich
hoodlums.
pricks coming through in their like really nice Jeep.
Yeah, they drive through in a Wrangler. Jack at this point he's been like drinking himself into stupor, and I guess like the landscape of New York at this time is like we are presented with quite a lot of homeless people. Like they become very much our perspective on just like life from a very ground level, because Jack himself is now at their level as opposed to being the man in the high apartment.
There are people on the beat.
Pretty much.
Beat kids.
Pretty much. Beat kids. Beat men.
Yeah.
Who, all seem to be men who were of note at some point, seemingly.
Absolutely.
But have obviously gone quite mad. That's one of the main concerns I have about the film in general, is that all of the homeless people are pretty much sparked out to be like crazy people, you know?
Yeah.
And that's like one of my primary issues with it, just that representation. But he's on the streets. He ends up getting given a Pinocchio doll by a rich kid from this hotel, and
yeah, he's brown bagging some Jack Daniels.
Pretty much. And he's very sad. He's very depressed. He's very drunk. So he just ties a couple of breeze blocks to his legs to like jump into the Hudson River.
Yep.
And this is when the Wrangler pulls up, and they're just,
Hey you!
I'm
tired of seeing you on my streets.
I'm tired of seeing you piece of human
trash. I'm tired of seeing your kind. And it's like he's just about to kill himself. Like, just give him a second.
Yeah, and also
won't see him again?
He's not homeless either.
No, he's just a little sweaty.
He's just a little sad and sweaty, and he fucking they bring out some baseball bats and a fucking canister of gasoline.
Oh my god.
It escalates.
They are pouring gasoline on a human being, intending to set him on fire.
Yes.
Ryan.
Yes.
This is horrible.
Yes.
It's so dark.
Yes.
Like they're gonna set him, oh no.
Yes.
Oh, it's so fucked up.
The thing is, like he doesn't get set on fire. He gets set on fire a little bit later, but he doesn't get set on fire here. But this is when Perry shows up. Perry shows up. He's on top of the Wrangler, and they're like, "What are you doing on my car, motherfucker?" And then, obviously, he's a knight.
Alas, unhand him.
Yes, he's got a shield from Jane Street, and he's got obviously his wife beater chainmail on, and he's ready to go toe to toe with these two assholes. And obviously the entirety of the homeless community back him up at the same time, to the point where they hog tie one of the guys, and the other guy like drives off.
Hell yeah.
And they save Jack from pretty much certain death.
Oh yeah, from being burned alive.
Pretty much.
But they also serenade those ruffians with a tune.
How about you? Yeah, how about you?
I like New York in June.
Yeah. And there's like some really lovely visual cues where you're kind of looking high up at skyscrapers, and then it tilts down, and then you're presented with the scene, like with the video shop and stuff like that. Like that stuff I really, and like you look at things like from above.
Oh, well, no one looks up in New York, and that is true.
No, and
except
you know
tourists.
What? And Perry's the only other one that looks up.
Yeah,
because he looks at the clock. He looks at the clock every day. There's some really beautiful stuff within this movie, even if though I feel like some of the representation calls for like some issues.
Okay.
But I guess that's kind of, again, when we think about like old school representation in films and things like that, is it can be a little bit derogatory at times.
It's the 90s. There's no such thing.
Yeah, but that's a issue with Hollywood that I'll have in general. Things are slightly better now, if not like it's maybe tipped too far in the other direction.
They definitely call back to your feelings, which like I'm sure that Gilliam thinks that he's making a very sympathetic view of the homeless community in New York. But then because he references that later in the movie where they're like, oh, we want to make a comedy show, but about homeless people. Yes.
But it almost to a point feels a little contradictory. But I'm not saying he's not an intelligent man. I'm just saying that I'm like, okay, that's kind of doesn't sit right. But anyway, look, beyond that, he ends up under the, obviously they've got under the George Washington Bridge is like where all the homeless people live in New York. And it's this homeless community, and it's this kind of very surreal, very strange scene where they sing, they're philosophizing. You know, these people, these older people, they've obviously gone mad, but they've all had lives beforehand. We meet like an old Wall Street banker, and obviously someone who fought in the wars, and that ends up being this is the moment where it's probably my favorite moment in the whole movie, is where it's like, it's like I said to you, it's like he didn't get set on fire then, but he does get set on fire later on. And like there's this moment, and they're all kind of talking, and you know, Jack's just like, what the fuck is going on? He's also drunk, he's very sweaty, he's very wet. And for whatever reason, his jacket arm ends up going on fire.
Yeah.
And everyone all the homeless people, everything just kind of stops, and they just watch him. It's like he frantically tries to pat it out.
Yeah.
And then there's a small moment of pause, and they all start applauding him.
Well, because when he finally gets it out, they freeze, and they go, yay! They clap, 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 clap. It's like, what is this? Some sort of like freak show? What's happening?
Very funny. Like one of them's like, it's magic.
Wow. Jack is trying to figure out, you know, obviously how he can make it up, you know, in a weird way. I think he says at one point, he just wants to be able to pay off his debt, you know, and he's like crying. He wants to pay off his debt to Perry.
Well, let's just put it this way. This encounter is very advantageous for the both of them. It's very coincidental. You know, the one homeless person that he runs into that ends up saving him from these two crazy assholes is the one guy who was affected by the tragedy.
Well, a lot of people were affected, but this is one of like.
Well, this is the
14
only. This is
people
the
or something,
only one
or
we ever.
7.
Yeah, but this is the only one that we meet.
Of course.
Yeah. So.
Well, he only needs to pay off his debt to like one person, and then he's like totally absolved of all wrongs, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to seek everybody else out.
Yeah, he doesn't need to like apologize to anybody.
No, I mean he didn't obviously he didn't. I mean he had all those news clippings in his house. He could have just maybe looked up some names.
No, he's just gonna sit in self-pity and just like cry about it all day.
Yeah, this is the kind of the Jack Lucas dichotomy that we're kind of presented with here, is that you're like quite sympathetic towards him, but at the same time when you kind of dig a little bit deeper, you kind of scrape away a few of the layers, you're just kind of like, oh no, you're kind of not, no, this is
You're not very good.
You're not a very good person, mate.
I shouldn't like you, but you're Jeff Bridges.
Yeah, we shouldn't let the Jeff Bridges magic cloud our judgment.
That's why it works.
Yes.
So in addition to helping Perry find the Holy Grail, Jack kind of takes it upon himself to also help him find a replacement wife to the one he accidentally, you know, when he didn't
inadvertently made, I guess
he inadvertently made deceased.
You're saying it in such a way that like that's it, but he's got a love interest, Perry.
He does, and it's Lydia.
It's evident,
and
because we've already kind of established Jack's like it's a fucking suicide mission to try and get this trophy from this rich man's library.
Yes,
like it's not going to happen. Like you try and walk in there, they're going to shoot you. So he thinks it's much easier for him to unite Perry with this love interest that he's been mildly stalking.
Moderately stalking.
Yes, I guess so. Let's say within the...
Moderate to heavy, I would say. I don't know. If like some guy, homeless or not, was following me down the street and knew when I got to work, when I went to lunch, what I ate for lunch, what snacks I got for lunch, what books I read... And like what train I took home.
Yeah, and how I behaved.
Heavy stalking. That's heavy stalking.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. But let's put it through
Good
the Hollywood...
intentions aside.
Yeah, let's put it through the Hollywood filter. It was not uncommon that men would behave probably very badly. And certainly if we look at it through modern eyes now... Right. You know, it's just a film. That's what you would say. It's just a film. I don't know if that would hold up in court, but it'd be like, it's just a film. So
Perry's waiting, essentially, for Lydia at Grand Central Station because he knows the train she's going to take home. And at the same time, Jack is there as well, but he's talking to Tom Waits.
Well, let's put it this way. Jack is basically just spending his days
days and nights.
Just hanging out with Perry.
Yeah.
You know?
It's like his redemption quest.
Yeah.
And
because like he's tried to give him money, like he's tried to like feel like here's some financial compensation.
Yeah, here's $50 for the loss of your life and your brain.
Yeah, here's $70 and this'll fix everything. But then he gives him that money, and then Perry ends up giving the money to like a homeless man who's
another homeless man.
Yeah, who's like a crazy Wall Street banker, or was a crazy Wall Street banker, and Jack's just like, I'm getting the money to you.
Buy.
To
Oh no,
help him.
sell.
Yeah.
Buy.
And it's just, again, another example of like these poor, crazy homeless people.
I like when he gives him that money and he gives it to the other guy.
Yeah.
And he's like, why did you give him that money? And Perry's like, well, what am I going to do with it?
Yeah.
I've got everything I need.
And then Perry goes, do you really want to help me? In this kind of weird way. And like stares at him. And they hold in the shot like for an uncomfortable amount of time because Jeff Bridges' reaction to Robin Williams staring at him for a good like 10 seconds is that he recoils and tries to walk away.
What does he think he wants?
I don't know, his ass.
Ooh. That's another movie I want to get on board with, you guys. Let's make this movie.
Well, there's already a few porno recommendations at the beginning of the movie as well, you know. Ordinary peepholes.
Ordinary peepholes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that amused you to no end.
I love that.
And it's like...
I'm like ordinary reason. People. I like that movie. Does everyone break out into a waltz?
No.
What?
No.
What?
You mean like in the scene in Grand Central Station?
Yes.
Well, remember, we're seeing things from Perry's perspective at that point.
Yeah, when Perry sees Lydia, everyone kind of breaks out into this dance. It's like when he sees her, everyone's in love, just like him. It's so cute.
It's easily one of my favorite parts in the entire film, is when the entirety of that base floor of Grand Central Station just starts out into a waltz.
And that's a scene that Gilliam kind of came up with on a whim. They went and were doing like location scouting, and they were with LaGravenese, and he goes, wouldn't it be cool if everyone just started dancing? And LaGravenese is like, I like it. And he's like, no, would be cool. He's like, I just want to keep it on your script. And they're like, we're doing it.
I have ideas, but they don't have to be ideas.
And I'm like, whatever. Gilliam, you were probably standing there like, yeah, we're fucking filming this cool-ass scene.
Yeah, I mean, there's, like, I guess, like, with this whole partnership and things like that, it's kind of like, just do something arty, Gilliam.
Yeah, and I
Put
guess...
some Gilliam in this movie. And
he said that they still do a waltz there at Grand Central, like, every year. It's like a tradition post Fisher King.
Huh, okay. That's cool.
While all of this is happening, that's when Jack is talking to Tom Waits. And I also love that Bridges, who had worked with Tom Waits on a film called Cold Feet, asked Gilliam, hey man, how can I get my friend Tom in this film?
My bud Waits, Mr. Waits.
My friend. And Gilliam's like, I guess I'll make him this homeless man. Which is cool.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Well, they're both musicians as well, so
right.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
Also probably why they know each other as well. So
Jeff Bridges is my best friend.
He is the crazy heart. If anyone's not seen that, I mean, that's where basically Jeff Bridges plays Jeff Bridges. There's that
so cute
ailing country singer.
Wait, he's not playing himself in Tron?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't even say Tron. I'd be like Last Picture House is like, you know, that's like the earliest I can think of a Jeff Bridges movie.
Okay. You're bringing out art films. Listen, I'm talking about movies.
It's only the staple of American cinema, but anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
We tried to watch Tron recently, and it's, I don't know.
Don't finish that sentence. Don't finish that sentence. Tron is amazing.
Whatever. Fisher King. Come on, back on point. So we come out of this, the slow dancing scene.
And we are walking to Central Park to take off our clothes.
And now we're here. We're at Central Park.
Oh, yeah. What do you want to do at Central Park?
I don't know. Well, it's at night, right?
Yeah. Do you want to...
Well, I don't probably want to be there. You don't want to end up...
You don't want to be there?
What, at nighttime?
Yeah, I kind of want to be there, and I want to take my clothes off and rub my ass along the grass like a dog.
Oh, okay. I see.
And then I want to lay on my back and break apart clouds in the sky with my mind.
So I've not been to Central Park, and I've not been to New York or anything yet, but certainly I remember the parks near where I used to live when I was younger and growing up. You wouldn't go fucking near them in the nighttime. You'd get stabbed.
I mean, you yelled at me you didn't yell at me because we're adults, but
Well, I warned you.
you warned me about going somewhere in the daytime because you're
Yeah.
like, there's all these murders up on Christorphin Hill.
Yeah, people get killed. Or
I had a lovely time on
It's not
Christorphin
that. It's
Hill.
not like when you get stabbed in the neck with a fucking heroin needle,
Oh my
and you're
God.
like,
Oh my God.
and you're like, oh Christ. I'm like, oh, I'm on an AIDS program for the next 6 months. You know,
Well, there's a part where
there used to be. Here's a story. Here's a tale. Right.
Oh, okay.
In the parks, back where I was, like, there was tales going up next to where up near the tennis courts where I used to live, and it's like, no, don't go up there because there used to be kids who put fishing line across the pathway. And they would wait for people to trip on the fishing line, beat the shit out of them, and then take their wallets and their phones.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So if you thought I was at ever point shouting at you, I'd be like, well, do you want to trip over some fucking fishing wire and then have your shit taken off of you?
No.
Why? So yeah. So don't be so idealistic. You know, like it's like oh,
Everyone's
everything's all
innocent
bright
until
and
proven
lovely.
guilty, so I trust everyone.
Everyone is a scumbag. Yeah. Apart from our audience, sorry.
Different opinions on the humankind. Well, they go out into the park and Perry starts stripping his clothes off and Jack is absolutely like livid. Why am I here? He's like yelling to himself.
He's like, what are you doing? Why are we in Central Park? Please don't get naked in Central Park.
And he's like, it feels great, Jack. It feels great.
Yeah.
Just feel it waggling in the wind.
Mm-hmm.
And Perry's just wiggling around like crazy, and this is where you see Robin Williams totally nude.
Yes, this is the dick scene.
Here we are, dun,
Yeah.
da, 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 the dick scene, and it's at 59 minutes.
Okay.
Just I like to log it in just so
Perfect.
everyone has that timestamp,
Yes.
and I absolutely love that Gilliam said that he was trying to use shadows to cover Robin Williams' penis.
Yep.
But Robin Williams jumped around too much that he gave up.
Yeah.
He's like, fuck it.
Yeah.
Here it is. It's just there. He's like, I can't cover this with shadows. Robin Williams is too
Yeah.
bouncy.
The thing is, it's mostly seen in like a wide shot, and obviously Robin Williams is basically doing prime Robin Williams at this point, and he's just let loose.
I gotta say, like, I watched it again, and you see more than, like, I remember seeing initially. Like, there's a part where he kind of, like, gets on his knees, and he's like, come on, Jack, come on, come over here. And I'm like, you get an eyeful.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You really do.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious. It's so good. And Jack's just yelling at himself, and he's like, I don't want some repressed rich boy coming back here who's like repressing his homosexuality to like come beat us up out of revenge for his father or something.
Yeah.
I'm like,
yeah.
oh God.
Well, that's the thing. Like Perry's spending most of this time like calling Jack a little too Midwestern because he won't take off his clothes and join him in this. But like, he's wanting him to take off his clothes, this kind of freeing moment, so that they can watch the patterns the clouds make in the sky.
Yeah, and just break apart the clouds with their minds.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, you just kind of see the difference between Perry just being this well, I don't know. I don't want to call him a free spirit because he's like locked inside his sadness.
Well, the thing is like, it's the ignorance of his self-conscious that's kind of keeping him prisoner, you know?
Yeah.
So he has a very idyllic view of the world and this sense of adventure, and like his level of ignorance that is totally like not his fault. Like it's just a side effect of the psychosis.
His coping mechanism.
His coping mechanism. But he's living a life of ignorance that most people would beg for.
Yeah,
you know?
he's just living every single moment.
Yeah. Because he's not,
as it
like,
comes.
again, and we've kind of say that he is not bound by the rigors of society.
Yes.
He is just home free,
Yeah.
so to speak. So when Jack's kind of seeing it, I mean, he looks like he's off the rails, like he's crazy. But
yeah,
the
well,
thing
that's
is,
and that's what Jack yells at him. He's like, "You're out of your goddamn mind!"
Yeah.
And then Barry yells, "Bingo!"
yeah.
And he's just wiggling and wiggling.
But the thing is like this level of freedom and this spirit that he has and that pervades through the course of the entire film is the most appealing characteristic of Perry. You know?
Yeah.
It's the thing that makes him stand, and it's the thing that Jack effectively adopts.
It's infectious.
From
it's
him.
infectious to Jack, to the people around him, to like all of the homeless people that he interacts with.
Yeah, it's endearing. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it brightens up everyone's lives, just
Like,
even for a little bit.
Life in this context of this film is shit.
Yeah, it's dire.
Everything
Absolutely dire.
sucks.
Yeah.
Everything is sad and bleak and dark, but he tends to just bring a bit of joy in that ignorance to everyone around him.
Yes, yes. And this is the prime example of that, and we're just basically given a full face view of his cock. No. pretty much what it is.
Yeah, Jeff Bridges does not get naked in this movie, by the way. I've seen chatter on the internet. He doesn't. It does not happen. But it's okay, because that's not what he's about.
Well, the thing is, they do end up lying on the ground, and this is like one of my favorite bits.
Yeah.
Is Jack's just like mumbling to himself. He's just like, it's like ex-radio DJ found dead with naked dead man.
Naked dead man found next to ex-radio DJ. Not naked, companion naked, you know, because he's always like writing his autobiography in his head, and it's just like, oh wow, what a headline.
What should I call it? Jack.
Yeah.
You're like, and you're like, right, okay. You know, so what we're getting is the subdued, guilt-ridden Jack that we ultimately prefer. But this is where Perry tells him the story of the Fisher King.
And this is also when Perry says the titular line of the film.
Yeah.
Gotta love a titular line.
Yeah, and then we have a drink.
Just have a drink.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah, it could be pure methanol, but you have a drink.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
But I'm not Jack Lucas. Please don't do what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But like this is what wraps up this scene like very nicely is that he recites the story and stuff, and he does it like Robin Williams does it in that prime kind of subdued, very slight way that only he can do. You know,
Not like it's just a great monologue.
Yeah, it's fantastic retelling of the story, and he just kind of says, "Oh, I knew that you were thirsty."
I only knew you were thirsty.
And what you find, the scene itself closes up with the another showing of the Red Knight.
Right, because every time that Perry has a connection to his true self and his past, that's when the Red Knight comes in, because, I mean, the Red Knight is a manifestation of his trauma. Oh, also, during the scene, so obviously Robin Williams is totally naked, and the studios were really worried that Robin was going to lose his fans because of how hairy he is, or how hairy he was. Yeah,
well, here's the thing. Yeah, unfortunately, Robin Williams is no longer with us, and this is not a slight against him, but he was a hairy chap.
Very, very hairy. But not his butt wasn't hairy.
It's like, where did Robin start and the hair end?
His butt.
His butt. He didn't have a hairy butt?
I don't think so. I think it would have stuck in my mind, because that's...
okay. It's also covered in a lot of shadow, so we don't really know. But, I mean, that's part of his comedy act as well. He used to say he was incredibly hairy, so... it's
that's so uncomfortable.
Yeah, no, I think it's very funny. But
there is this part of one of his like stand-ups that I saw, and how he's talking about like going down on a woman, which he put his mouth on the crook of the inside of his elbow, and he's just like going to town on it, and I never forgot it. It was so like visceral, or so it was so real, and I just so hairy, and he was very sweaty, and I'm tortured by that image.
Yeah, like, put it this way, at least, yeah, that's why people don't have mirrors in their bedroom, just in case they were ever to catch a glimpse of what they were doing to themselves.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
I mean...
It's like you had an out-of-body experience watching yourself doing something on a bed.
I'd rather not. I'd rather not. When people, I mean, good on you if you film yourself and you're like, yeah, I love it.
Yeah, you do a Patrick Bateman.
Oh, oh, I'm just flexing. I'm flexing in the camera. No.
That's really funny.
I mean, he's gorgeous. If I was Patrick Bateman...
Don't look at it, eat it.
We have to get Lydia and Perry together.
Yeah, what are they going to do?
They are going to fake a contest in which Lydia wins a one-year membership to Video Spot that Anne owns.
Yeah.
And a borrowing of a VCR.
She gets to rent out a VCR for a small period of time until she's able to get one of her own.
VCRs, we were researching this, cost about $300 to $400.
Yeah.
Like more than a PlayStation. More than a PS5.
Either way, VCRs are fucking expensive.
They were
then.
super expensive. So I guess that's why, like, when Jack's like, we'll give you a VCR. And she's like, slaps him. And he's like, we'll give you a VCR on rental until you can get a VCR of your own. They just want to get her into the store so that Perry and Lydia can meet. Basically, so what they do is send one of their homeless cohorts, Michael Jeter.
Yeah.
Dressed in drag. Oh, he's so beautiful.
Yeah.
And
We meet him initially in Central Park during the day as they're hunting down the Red Knight. And then... he's like trying to bury himself so the horses will trample him.
Yeah, he's having a hard time.
Yeah, he's
having a hard time.
Yeah, everyone's having a bit of a hard time in this movie.
But Michael Jeter's friends with Stephen Sondheim, and Stephen Sondheim never let anyone change the lyrics to his songs before, but they really wanted to sing this particular song. And Sondheim's like, yeah, Mike, go ahead. You can change the lyrics to the song. And so Michael Jeter just bursts out in song on top of these filing cabinets or these tables or whatever, and it is so funny. I love that scene so much. But then they all end up going on this date together.
Chinese. Yeah, they go get a Chinese. Go to this Chinese restaurant. Yeah, it's one of the nicest looking scenes in the entire film, actually.
Perry is kind of chatting with Lydia, and that's when she ends up kind of
This whole moment seems to unite Anne and Jack back together as well.
That's true.
You know?
Because he'd been feeling...
I think Anne's kind of up until this point kind of like, well, I love you and everything, but...
she's kind of over his attitude.
Much. Yeah, it's a bit much.
Yeah.
And then she starts to fall in love with him again, basically.
What does he say to her when he's like, it looks like they're definitely gonna bang? And he's going to take her up to the apartment. And he's like, they're having a smooch and stuff. And he starts like, I don't know, going down her chest. And then he just like picks her up over his shoulder. And he's like, what does he say? Dim sum. Mushu pork. Just scream.
Talk about some pork.
Mushu pork.
Yeah. Deep fried crispy beef. Special fried rice.
But while that's happening, Perry's walking Lydia home, and she kind of goes through her head, like, I guess she's had a lot of bad dates, and she's just like, I'm over this. Like, this is going to end. I'm just going to end it now. And he's like chasing her down, like, we haven't even had our first kiss yet. And that's when
she's in a defense mechanism, because Lydia's character, just in general, she's very clumsy. She's always on the defensive, and it's like, her history, just with men in general, I kind of feel like has been... they've probably just taken advantage of her. So,
but it's like you wouldn't expect someone who is so clumsy and awkward to also be so strong and independent and weirdly confident.
She's also quite probably happy on her own, even though if there's a niggling doubt in her head that maybe someone is out there for her.
Yeah, it's almost like she's given up at this point until she meets
musicals.
Perry.
I guess there's like
Ethel
that.
Merman.
Yeah, she likes against like the there's a romanticism about about the things that fascinate her a little bit. She likes like trashy romance novels and
That's
stuff
true.
like that. Like there's little things.
There's nothing trashy about romance.
No. It's like you can find some beautiful things in the trash.
Yeah.
You know, like there's hints and highlights that she's wishing for something a little bit more
He
than what she's
also
actually getting.
walks her through. He tells her straight off the bat, after he tells her he has a boner for her the size of Florida.
Yeah.
He explains to her that he loves her.
Mm-hmm.
First date.
Yeah.
Okay. And then it's also like a group date, like a double date.
Mm-hmm.
And then he explains to her how he's been seeing her and following her. He tells her he's been following her and the things that
Yes.
she does every single day.
Yes.
And the way that he explains it to her. And it's also, you know, these sweet things that he says about like what he notices about how she acts and how he loves the way that she acts and making assumptions on her character because he's never talked to her before.
Yeah, he doesn't know her technically.
But she eats it up so hard and it just hits her in the soft spot and she starts like just a really delicate tear and she loves it and she's like, "Oh, are you real? Like you're real."
Yeah, this is Hollywood logic.
It is Hollywood logic because
Yes.
I got to tell you on the stalker scale,
Okay,
we have
here
to
go.
figure it out on the stalker scale because I was talking about this with a coworker of mine recently, and we were thinking about like on a 0 to 10 scale. So you've got 0 to 10 of attractiveness, and you have a 0 to 10 of creepiness.
Yes.
Because obviously, the more attractive, or how about this, the more attracted you are to somebody,
Yes.
the more they can get away with creepy behavior.
You said Norman Bates.
Norman Bates.
Norman Bates.
God, where would he be?
I don't know, maybe
Like
7 on the attractiveness scale. He's not an
7?
ugly-
You would
yeah.
put Norman Bates
Yeah.
a 7 in attractiveness? I was going to say like 4.
He's not that bad.
Well, I'm not saying
Depends.
he's
Are you talking
unattractive.
about the Hitchcock one or the Gus Van Sant one?
I never would have thought about Vince Vaughn.
Okay. Masturbating while looking at her through a peephole.
Anne Heche. Like, no, I was not. I honestly, I forgot that existed. I was thinking about, obviously, the Hitchcock
Well,
original
just to
one.
let you know, it's a shot-for-shot remake of the Hitchcock original. Where would
I'm not
Robin
interested.
Williams
Like-
sit on that scale then?
I like
To you.
bearded Robin a lot.
Okay.
Okay, so on the attractiveness scale, 0 to 10.
Because it's not Robin that's on the scale.
Okay,
Let's
sorry.
be perfectly
It's
honest
Perry.
here.
It's
It's
Perry.
Perry who's on the scale.
Okay. Well, we also saw a clean-shaven Perry in a flashback, and I wasn't into it.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay? So I like this filthy, homeless Perry. I think he looks better.
Yeah, I guess like you don't. Yeah, like Flubber Williams.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's clean shaven in that.
Yeah, I don't
movie.
like it so much.
So like maybe your favorites like Jumanji.
Ooh.
Yeah, where he's very hairy.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Yeah.
Okay, let's not talk about the hair again. I don't want to. I'm like freaked out by the hair. In this scene, attractiveness, I would give him a 7 or an 8. 7. 7.5.
Okay.
Attractive.
Yeah.
I think he's cute. And then on the
He's a
creep.
cute little dirty homeless man.
Yeah, well, he's clean. He had a shower. He didn't brush his teeth, I don't think, because they're still brown. And on the creepy scale, I swear I'm talking an 8 or a 9. Like, it is rough. Like, it's high.
Yeah, I guess when you start deliberating and categorizing all of her little quirks and things like that, then it's
When you tell me that on Wednesdays I go buy dumplings, and then if I'm having a
Yeah.
good day, I buy a romance novel, and I also pick up Jawbreakers on my way to work, I'm like, I step away slowly,
Yeah.
and I try to find my keys just in case I need to stab you.
yeah. I mean, it's one step away from potentially wearing my skin.
Absolutely.
Yeah. There is this one bit I forgot about where he talks about like his hard on is the size of Florida, and he's like, I have a confession to make. And she's like, what? Oh, you're married? No. And he's like, you have a disease?
He's like, no, stop talking.
Yeah, please just shut up now.
Perry sees the Red Knight again.
Yeah, let's put it this
Here.
way. Every time he sees the Red Knight is when he's having moments of clarity.
Sees and relives. He
That's
relives
when the
his
old,
trauma.
that's
and
where the
sees-
old Perry comes in
He sees his wife.
and clashes with the destiny that Perry is
Brains.
under. Yeah.
in his mouth.
Oh, this is fucked up. Yeah, so we see the whole memory. We've only seen it in flashes up until this point, but yeah, this is where it's like, yeah, she gets a shotgun blast to the back of the head, and it blows out into
his face,
into Perry's face and into his mouth, and he's like going to grab her, and his face is covered in blood, and then obviously the next thing, and this is the thing, I don't know why this was, but what these health workers like take off all of his clothes, put him in a straitjacket, but they'd never clean his face of all of his wife's blood that's all over his face.
Yes, blood's all over his face and his glasses.
I'm like, no wonder he's traumatized.
Yeah, he's like, all he can see is her brain on
this isn't gonna happen.
Eyes.
He's like tasting her brain in between his teeth.
Oh my God,
and he's
Ryan.
like fucking
gross.
He's fucking trying to deal with this trauma. No wonder he gets all fucked up.
Then he goes back into a state of catatonia?
He reverts back into a catatonic state.
Okay, that's better.
Yeah.
He's sleeping.
He's in hospital, and Jack and Anne by this point have fallen out by the time they meet him.
Furious.
Livid.
As she
Not
should
only
be.
that, like, her world just starts crumbling down.
And you're with someone for 3 years, you know, and you're kind you
he comes across as incredibly ungrateful.
Oh, of course he is. He's been living in her place, not paying money, just like mooching off of her.
Yeah.
And
like yelling at the TV, because obviously like Harry Shearer took his role on the TV show he was meant to do. So now that Perry's in a coma.
Jack decides, all right, well, I guess getting him a new wife didn't work. No, I have to actually go get the Grail, which is in some dude's mansion. There's the caper for you.
So he steals like this shitty trophy that's on this shelf. It's like from like 1932
or something. It's like a singing contest or something. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was like this first place singing contest, 1934.
It's worth absolutely nothing. But basically, he's
but that's not what it's about, Ryan.
And they wake up, he gets the Grail. They sing a rendition with himself and the rest of the patrons of this mental hospital ward, a rendition of New York in June.
How about you?
And then obviously Lydia comes back and sees that he's awake, and they start their lives together again.
Are you my girl?
Yeah, did you notice the dude with the Hitler stash?
I very much noticed him. He was like on the left side of the group that are singing that song. I'm like, that dude's got a Hitler mustache.
Yeah.
And then
I
want to go to Central Park again.
Yes. And obviously, as you might expect, they're both naked this time.
And they're both naked. You don't see anything this time, by the way.
No. Yeah, very kind of Hollywoody ending where all the lights tone out on the cityscape and they all change different colors and they're talking, and then there's fireworks and the end comes up in fireworks.
Big and bright letters.
It's nice. I like that sort of thing. Reminds me of simpler times in movies.
So yeah, that's the end of the film. And I'll tell you my ratings. I'll start with the penis, the dick scene. I'll do visibility and context. I gave it a 4.
Yeah.
Because even though I think I saw more of it than I remember seeing before, it's not in a stark light or anything. We still got like Gilliam shadows.
Yeah, I think it kind of depends on the settings on your TV as well, because it is also quite dark.
Okay. But I think that it's there and it's in your not in your face, but it doesn't shy away. So I'll give it a 4. I think it's perfectly fine, and also the context is fine. It's great. Whatever. 4.
Yeah. I love how free-spirited the scene itself is, and it's very different from scenes we've spoken about already. Because there's no sexual element to it whatsoever,
Yeah,
it's just,
actually, yeah, definitely.
It's just an aberration.
All of them have been sex scenes.
Yeah.
This is not. Okay.
This is not. This is an appreciation of the human body. Basically.
Variety. We do variety around here.
Anyway, but no, I like the fact that it is like it's indicative of the character, what he's doing, and it's tonal shift, and it's what characterizes these two characters, where someone's very straight-laced and grounded, and you have obviously that's Jack. And obviously you have Perry, who's a free spirit. It's tonally more in the realm of comedy than it is anything else.
Right.
So
because this is a comedy dramedy.
A dramedy, or tragic comedy-rama. So yeah. So no, I mean, I know. I mean, it's the scene itself seen in a much lighter light than, or lighter. It's in a much lighter tone, let's say.
Yeah.
So I would probably give it a 3.
Oh,
for
okay.
visibility, because I still think it's relatively quite dark. And in terms of context and stuff like that, I think it's nice that it's there, but like if it wasn't there in that scene for whatever reason and it was just him wiggling his ass around and stuff, it would still get across the same thing.
Okay.
I feel like, personally.
I think when I have things like that, where I see those things, I feel like, let's just say he was just wiggling his butt around.
Yeah.
I'd go, okay, let's say, oh, he's wiggling his butt around, and then when he turns around front ways, we just see, like, his upper torso. I'd go, okay.
Yeah.
You're playing a trick on me.
Yes.
Because that's not fair, and that happens a lot. But the fact that that didn't happen, I commend it for that.
Yeah.
Because he is naked.
Again, I'm kind of just like, straight down the middle with it. I give it 3s.
Okay.
A couple of 3s.
Okay. Well, I skipped ahead and gave the movie a 4, so...
Yeah.
Because I think that's what... I like this movie, and
yeah,
I'm more in the mood for it some days than I am other days. But I think it's a sweet movie. I think it's an interesting adventure tale, and I had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah,
and it's got prime Bridges, prime Williams.
Yes, I would say. Yeah, I'm maybe more. Again, like, I feel very much kind of straight down the middle with The Fisher King. I felt exactly the same way as I did the first time I ever saw it, and I was kind of just like, okay, there it is. And I'm more aware of runtimes and stuff now more than ever, and I kind of feel like The Fisher King's almost 2.5 hours long, this movie.
It is a little long.
It's a bit bloated. I feel like it kind of goes on a little bit too long, so
okay.
It's worth watching. It's not as Gilliam-esque. I think that's where my problem is that it's not as Gilliam as I want my Gilliam to be Gilliamed. So
I think that's why I like it more. I like it just more focused on relationships. So
yeah, I think if it's directed by somebody else other than Terry Gilliam, it's a very different beast, and it's probably not as interesting. So
oh yeah, 100%.
There is that.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, goodness, thank you so much for being here with me today, Ryan. It has been a thrill coming to you from the porno room at Video Spot. I have been Laura.
I've been Ryan.
Oh yeah. Oh.
I was going to talk in my radio voice to close it up.
Thank you guys so much for being here. Hit us up on the social media.
DJs do, yeah.
And see you next time.
Yes. Hit us up digitally.
Totes my goats.
Totes my goats. Well, forgive me. So we're back recording. Just let me get into standing position. I can't lean back in this chair for whatever reason.
Does it not bend?
Well, the thing is like I need to be closer to the mic, and we're over a thing. That's why we need to get those things that come all the way around and come down towards our head, and I can just move it in, and I can just sit back in my chair as opposed to having to bend over. I feel like
your chair is also so squeaky.
Yeah, it's very squeaky because it's cheap. But also,
I don't move.
No, every time we come out of a podcast, I feel like Quasimodo taking a dump. Like I'm just wandering around the house, like I'm crippled. And I don't know, like I'm only 35 years old. What's happening to me?
You need to stretch more.
Of course, you with the logical answer.